All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're jumping into zking era. Now, this is a project with a huge vision to scale Ethereum for, well, the entire world. You've probably heard it mentioned as a layer 2, but trust me, its ambition goes way, way beyond just making your transactions a little cheaper.
So to really get zkSync, you have to start here. At its core, it's not just about tech. It's driven by this philosophy they call the ZK Credo. And this quote, it's their mission. It guides everything they do. The whole idea is to use math to automate trust, taking power away from, say, big institutions and putting it back in the hands of individuals like you and me.
Okay, so how does that philosophy translate into tech? Well, it leads to this really powerful vision for something they call hyperscalability.
And when they say hyperscalability, they are not messing around. We're not just talking about, a few more transactions per second. They are literally aiming for a system that can handle an infinite number of transactions. Think about that. The goal is to make blockchain scale just like the internet itself, where adding another billion people doesn't even make a dent. And this all builds up to their ultimate goal, what they call an internet of value. Just imagine for a second, a new internet where value, your money, your assets, your digital stuff, can move around as easily and as fast as an email. And the best part? It's all secured by pure mathematics. No big banks or intermediaries needed. So that's the big dream, right? The internet of value. But how on earth do they plan to actually build it? Well, the answer is in the tech. It's a specific kind of cryptography that they believe is the absolute endgame for scaling Ethereum. They're using something called ZK-Rollups. Now, you might have heard of their cousins, optimistic rollups. Those work on a trust but verify system, which is why you get that annoying 7-day wait for withdrawals. ZK-Rollups? Totally different. They use pure math to generate a proof that every single transaction is legit. No waiting, no trust needed. It means faster finality and, well, much tighter security. Okay, so let's walk through what happens when you make a transaction. You send it off, and this thing called a sequencer grabs it and bundles it up with thousands of others. But here's the magic trick. Instead of dumping all that data onto Ethereum, which would be super expensive, it just creates one single, tiny cryptographic proof. It's like a mathematical summary that says, yep, all of this is valid. And only that tiny proof gets sent to the main chain. That's the secret sauce to its efficiency. But look, the tech is cool and all. But zkSync has another trick up its sleeve. You could even call it a secret weapon. And it's aimed squarely at one of crypto's oldest and, let's be honest, biggest problems. Just how clunky and difficult it is to use. And that secret weapon is Native Account Abstraction. This is a huge deal. It completely changes what a crypto wallet even is. Forget just a simple key pair. On zkSync, every single account is a flexible, programmable smart contract. It's not an add-on. It's baked right into the DNA of the network. So why should you care about this? Well, what if you could log into your wallet with your face? What if an app could just sponsor your transaction fees so you don't pay anything? Or you could pay for gas with a stablecoin like USDC instead of having to buy Ether first. And the big one, what if you lost your key? You could have friends help you recover your account. This is about making Web3 finally feel as easy to use as the apps you use every day. And this focus on a super smooth user experience isn't just a nice-to-have feature. It's actually a key part of a much bigger and pretty clever strategy. And you can really see it when we start looking at the numbers. All right, so if we look at total value locked, TVL, which is a pretty standard way to measure how big an ecosystem is, you might think, zkSync looks kind of small compared to giants like Arbitrum. And yeah, based on this chart, you'd be right. But this data doesn't tell the whole story. Not even close. Now look at this number, $2.4 billion. This is where zkSync is quietly crushing it. I mean, this is more than double their entire DeFi TVL that we just saw. So what in the world is this? That is their value in tokenized real-world assets. We're talking about things like financial products from big traditional institutions being brought on chain. They made a really smart strategic play to go after institutional finance. And man, it is clearly paying off. They are the number 2 network for this stuff, right behind Ethereum mainnet itself. Okay, but with all this ambition and this clever strategy, there's a pretty big but. There's a real tension between that ZK credo we talked about, all that stuff about decentralization, and, well, how the network is actually set up today. According to L2Bead, which kind of keeps tabs on all this stuff, zkSync is at stage 0 of decentralization. That's the bottom rung, the most centralized you can be.
What does that mean? It means right now the whole network basically runs on a single sequencer controlled by the company. That's a huge single point of failure and control.
And you can see how this plays out when you look at what happened with their recent airdrop. Before the token launch, the network was pulling in almost $750,000 a day in revenue. The day after, it cratered. It dropped 99%. It's a pretty stark illustration that a huge chunk of the activity wasn't real sustainable usage. It was just speculation.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How does zkSync possibly bridge this huge gap between their grand, decentralized vision and where they are today? Well, this is their plan. Their 2025 roadmap is incredibly ambitious. They're shooting for a massive performance jump, 10,000 transactions a second. But most importantly, look at what they're focusing on, decentralizing those core parts, like the sequencer. They're tackling the problem head-on while also making it easier for Ethereum apps to move over. This is their answer. So, when you boil it all down, it comes to this. zkSync has the vision, it's got the incredible technology, and it's got a really smart strategy. But its whole future, its success or failure, hinges on one thing. Can it actually make that leap from a centralized project to the truly decentralized Internet of Value it promised us? That's the journey we'll all be watching.